This is going to be a little bit more of a philosophical one because we're going through a philosophical book, or at least a summary or a notes article by, by Nathaniel Eliason. The link is down in the description as always, but I'll see you after the intro as always. As double always. Doubled the always. Without the doubling. Well, anyway, and with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. I just think about if I should actually rename the podcast. Kinda. But anyway, before I go through it, there's a few things that I have to cover and have to think about and have to talk about. This is a podcast and there's also YouTube videos, so you can choose between either one of those. The second thing is notes. I'm gonna highlight certain things in this short little summary that we're gonna go through, and these few points are then going to be in a summary PDF, and you can download it and do whatever with it. The last one is music. If you want to have some background music, then please check out the last link. Thank you. So let's get through it. But I think before we go through the book per se, we should actually go through him, David Foster Wallace, which is the author of this book, which is called This is Water by David Foster Wallace. Yeah. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to read this small little introduction text from his Wikipedia page, because I think it is often quite something that's important to know who wrote it, and maybe to also then understand it a little tiny bit better, since especially when it comes to just some personal things, that the person just, for example, as unfortunately David Foster had to cope with alcoholism and depression and those things and drug addictions, it's sometimes actually, as I said, quite important to then understand the whole maybe plot of stories and whatnot. David Foster Wallace, born February the 23rd, 1962, and unfortunately died aged 46 in 2008 on the 12th of September, was an American writer and university professor in the disciplines of English and creative writing. His novel Infinite Jest, 1996, was listed by Times Magazine as one of the 100 best English language novels published between 1923 and 2005, which is amazing. His last novel, The Pale King, which was released 2011, was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 2012. The Los Angeles Times' David Ulian called Wallace one of the most influential and innovative writers of the last 20 years. Among the writers who cite Wallace as an influence are Dave Eggers, Sadie Smith, Jonathan Franzen, Elizabeth Wurtzel, George Saunders, Rivka Galchen, John Green, Matthew Galloway, David Gordon, Darren Strauss, Charles Yu, Poragista, Jokpur, and Deb Olin Uffert. Wallace died by suicide at age 46 after struggling with depression for many, many years. Unfortunately, and this is also kind of a reminder that only because you're you're not poor if you're just a famous writer and you're having probably not the best life, not the worst life if you're a famous writer. But as you can see, it's something unfortunate. Born occupation writer, university professor, alma mater, Amherst College BA and University of Arizona MFA, genre literature, fiction and non-fiction, and his movement was postmodern literature, postmodernism, metamodernism, hysterical realism, and new sincerity. I do know new sincerity, but I don't know where I know it from. I don't know it then. If there is no German page, then I don't know it. But let's go through the book per se. High-level thoughts. Powerful, conscious, worth reading multiple times to redigest what is both a simple and yet profound idea. So it's not going to be easy, and it is essentially not going to be easy for me to deconstruct what is in there. And as you can see, it's not a really long one, so it's probably going to be a one episode thing. But yeah, the first one is already quite cool and already quite interesting. So here it is. There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming. The other one, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" Yeah, I'm trying to deconstruct it. I'm trying to give you some thoughts of how I'm thinking about it, because it might be about having some things around you and nobody sees them and thinks about them and maybe even appreciates them, in terms of like, I mean, let's take it literal, the air. You know, you're having fresh air around you. Maybe is there something that you're grateful for? Is there something that you're appreciating? Is there something that you know about, think about? Maybe it is about this. Maybe it is about just seeing the tree in the forest. Yeah. If you understand it, tell me. The immediate point of the fish story is merely that the most obvious, ubiquitous, important realities are often the ones that are hardest to see and talk about. Well, I'm actually quite close. Am I? The point here is that I think this is one part of what the liberal arts mantra of teaching me how to think is really supposed to mean. To be just a little less arrogant, to have some critical awareness about myself and my certainties. Because a huge percentage of the stuff that I tend to be automatically certain of is, it turns out, totally wrong and deluded. Well, wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so. I tend to be automatically certain of is bad, is negative. Well, as I'm sure you guys know by now, it is extremely difficult to stay alert and attentive instead of getting hypnotized by the constant monologue inside of your head. Yes, and I do guess this is quite one of the things that I was talking about before. Like, if you know that somebody is having depression, then this is something that can say something. It is extremely difficult to stay alert and attentive, or I think it is actually attentive, instead of getting hypnotized or hypnotized by the constant monologue inside your head. So it's basically like there's voices in your head, and there's voices in your head that are telling you things and that are not making you feel good, basically. Therefore, learning how to think really means learning how to exercise some control over how and what you think. And especially, I would say, what you think. Because, I mean, there is actually a lot of things that we could focus on if we want to and if we try to. And it really depends on, it actually kind of depends on what you want your life to be like. You know, if you really want your life to be like a piece of shit, then think about the negative shit. Think about the things that are not positive. Think about the things that are like these things that do not actually matter, but you kind of feel like that they matter, even though they really don't. You know, which is actually the case with, or for also quite some things. Grades, for example. Then, I don't know, like there is a lot, like in many different areas. Like I could also be complaining about the little bit of echo that I'm hearing here. There is a little bit of echo. But I'm going to do my best. You know, I'm going to do my best to edit it, and it is going to be fine in the end. And what it reminds me of is Stoicism. And yeah, I've always pronounced it the wrong way, which is like a little bit of a pity, since I do really appreciate this philosophy so much, and I do really think that I'm also quite a Stoic, kind of. I've been thinking about it lately, and I guess I am. But which has nothing of meaning, of course. Like it's like, okay, I'm one of them, and this is who I am. But yeah. Anyway, I think that you know, especially when it comes to thinking and or just basically monitoring what you're thinking about, you know, and what you're focusing on, and because of, I mean, whatever you're thinking about is like there is some sort of a chain reaction there that you have probably heard before, like. If you think about something, this is then something that you're talking about. And if you're talking about it, then you're going to do it. And if you're doing it, this is then your life and your habits and stuff. Well, as I'm actually thinking about it and as I'm actually talking about it, I don't know if you're going to do things only because you have talked about them. You know, because well, I don't really think so. I don't believe in it. Can you please? Thank you. Well, I'm going to go ahead. And I submit that this is what the real no-shit value of your liberal arts education is supposed to be about. How to keep from going through your comfortable, prosperous, respectable adult life. That, unconscious, a slave to your head and to your natural default setting of being uniquely, completely, entirely alone, the day in and the day out. Well, I do really think that education can play a huge part there. But I also think that parents do play a huge part. But also, well, education is always like a two-edged sword, at least in my point of view. To one hand, or on one hand, I always have to say, like, education can definitely, especially when it is about critical thinking, especially if it is about like really thinking, and getting to think, that it could definitely make your lives easier, but it could also just completely do the reverse thing or opposite thing and make your life harder. Because if you always think about stuff, and if you always think like, well, actually overthink things, it's also not good. And it's also not going to be very beneficial. It's also not going to be that of a nice thing for you in the real end. So it's really two-edged. And on the other hand, it is like, does education have anything to do with what school you have attended, what degree you're having? Like, yes, it does, but no, it does not have anything to do with that, since, I mean, I do often think about Gary Vee. He's a very intellectual guy in what he's doing. He really is, and he's also really practical, and he really knows shit about whatever he's doing. And I would also say that he's well educated, even though on paper he's probably not, because he wasn't a good student, he was not in university, and all those things. Like, it is, yeah. I mean, I think education is a good thing for the masses, but some people are really fortunate, and some people are really, indeed fortunate that they have been able to just be a certain person at a certain age through certain things or because of certain things. If you're automatically sure that you know what reality is and who and what is really important, if you want to operate on your default setting, then you, like me, probably will not consider possibilities that aren't pointless and annoying. Yes, because why would you? If you really see what is important, why would you actually be caring about some things that are not really important? This, I submit, is the freedom of real education, of learning how to be well adjusted. You get to consciously decide what has meaning and what doesn't. I do just try to figure out what it can be that can make you feel that way. What can make you think like, well, this is something that's important, and this is something that's meaningful, and this is something that's good. Because I do somehow think that education definitely plays a role there. To just, I don't know, see more, to broaden your horizon. If this is an English saying as well, I don't actually know. We'll actually Google that. Broaden your... It actually is. Broaden your horizons. Phrase, definition, and synonyms. MacmillianDictionary.com. To make you see a wider range of opportunities and choices. Well, and for me, this... Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Put off, pick up, bring up, yeah. Something like this. I do just try to figure out what role education plays there, and why it is the case. If it is about like seeing the amount of things there are, from physics to whatever school you're actually attending, to music, to arts, to whatever, and well, yeah. The really important kind of freedom involves attention and awareness and discipline and effort, and being able to truly care about other people and to sacrifice for them over and over in myriad, pretty little unsexy ways every day. Which just kind of involves being a nice person, I guess. Even though I don't like sacrifice, it's like, I think it is... I don't like the word as such, but I do think that it is somehow a good phrase. It is somehow, I think it does somehow make sense, but I don't like sacrifice. I think this is about, it really is about attention, awareness, discipline, effort. These are a few things, and these are a few characteristics, at least in my point of view, or at my point of view, that can truly be important and be necessary for freedom. I guess whether it is financial, whether it is like freedom in terms of your mind, because if you're not disciplined, and if you're just, for example, if you're not working out, even if you want to, or even you want to work out, and even you want to just or even besides the fact that you want to work out and want to progress in terms of your body, and you're not doing that, like, where's your freedom then? You know, you're just inside of your barrier, or, well, actually inside of your barrier of having no discipline, you know, because you can only do what is inside of this barrier. But if you can break this thing through discipline, then, or because of discipline, or by discipline, then you can basically, like, do more. At least this is how I can actually put it. The alternative is unconsciousness, the default setting, the rat race. I hate rat race. The constant gnawing sense of having had and lost some infinity thing, or infinite thing. Well, it is about the real value of a real education, which has nothing to do with grades or degrees, or everything to do with simple awareness. And everything to do with simple awareness. Awareness of what is so real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around us, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water. That's an amazing one. Problem is, you only get it if you just know about the story, and also the plot of the story. So I'm going to repeat it again because I really like it. It is about the real value of a real education, which has nothing to do with grades or degrees, and everything to do with simple awareness. Awareness of what is real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around us, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water. Yeah, just recognizing things, just seeing things as how they are, seeing the reality and not being biased by some bullshit thoughts, I'd say. Like, there's a lot of things. This also plays into depression, because depression makes you feel some things and lets you see some things, and or maybe just, I think it is also because, well, yeah, it is also, I think, about emphasizing things, you know, that you're thinking, or when something happened, that because of depression, you're thinking about it even more, and that it is even more, quote unquote, powerful or more difficult. So it definitely is a way to not see the water and not notice the water, and so basically not notice how things really are, which is definitely a part of awareness. And awareness in terms of actually you seeing your patterns, you know, how you're doing things, but also in case of basically seeing, well, situations as well, you know, how situations are, and also recognizing other people, like being aware when well, for example, when somebody's feeling bad, you know, which is also a huge thing, which can also be something that's, well, actually in front of you, but you're not seeing it, like the water. But yeah, I think that I'm going to end this episode there, because I do want to have it a little bit shorter, I guess. 19 minutes, 20 minutes is quite fine. I like it. So I wish you the best health, of happiness, and all success, and also hope that you're going to remind yourself and you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy basically means just being a nice person and being remembered as a nice person. 3 other questions that I'm having for you are, why are you here? What are you trying to change? And the third one is, what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions can show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea. And with that being said, I'm going to see you the next time. Please consider subscribing if you want to. I would appreciate that, and you're also not going to, you know, lose or any information, or you're not going to miss out on any information. Yeah, this is what I mean. Yeah. Hopefully going to see you the next time. I'll see you, and have a nice day.